Hello and welcome to the EVA experience, an Apollo celebration. This is a VR experience to be able to teach people about scientific principles and get a simulated feeling of what it might be like to be on other planets. Right now we're here, home on Earth, and in front of us is the famous Saturn V rocket. To be able to get a bit of a good idea about the scale of this rocket, we have the engines here in front of you. Then of course we have the capsule with its launch escape system. We also have the ability to be able to take selfies on the given planets. So we'll go ahead and do that here. There we go. You can see you have a selfie of myself with the Saturn V engines. Now these images can be taken out of the virtual experience and into the real world. They're saved in the directory of the game. We also have the ability to experience what it might be like to be this close to the Saturn V launch. You definitely wouldn't want to be, but let's see what...
30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. 2 minutes, 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. 2 minutes, 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
As you can see, from launch we're transported to the Sea of Tranquility on the moon. Here you can see we have various experiments that we've added. We've added points of interest, and of course one of the most important things, the Lunar lander module. This particular one is modeled after the Eagle. As you can see, we've added various points of interest, even future tech. This is a piece of future tech that may be used on future space missions. We also have some of the classic vehicles that we used. This is the Lunar Rover. Some of the most famous footage from the moon came back with the astronauts riding this. We're also able to do scientific experiments with some old world technology. Here we have a catapult. A catapult is an excellent tool to be able to determine the difference between gravity on certain bodies as well as air resistance. So if we take a bowling ball and we'll place it into the bucket, there we go, and we fire, there we go. Oh, as you can see, there's the command module orbiting overhead. Excellent. So here we'll set the launch angle to 70 degrees and we'll set the power to low and we'll fire the catapult and see what happens. Oh, there we go, straight up. As you can see, there's a tracer added to the objects to be able to see them against the black background of space. Here we have some of the more scientific experiments. To be able to determine the distance between the Earth and the Moon, a laser is fired from the Earth to the Retro Reflector that was placed on the surface during the Apollo missions, and back. We measure the time it took to reflect back, we know the speed of light in the given medium, and we can work out how far it is away. This experiment can be triggered by pressing the button or by using one of the built-in interfaces on the wristwatch. So if we fire off this experiment, we currently do not know the distance to Earth. We'll fire the experiment off and get our answer. Animates, laser comes in. This simulated laser, you wouldn't really be able to see the laser in real life, but it's much easier to visualize what's going on. And look, we have our distance to the moon from Earth. This changes periodically over the month to be able to update as the distance changes. One of the most popular experiments in the VR experience to perform is the golf experiment. This is a simulation of one of the experiments that was done by the Apollo astronauts. We know the distance to Earth. I don't think we're going to get that far, but let's see how far we can get. Now, as you can see, as we pick up the golf club, we get a warning about the wrist straps. Now, let's see how we go about taking a shot. I'm not very good at golf, but... there we go. On the moon, everybody's good at golf. Let's see how we scored. Hey, that's not too bad. Okay, so the experiments aren't just for looking at, you can learn a lot from them. So if we take the Lunar rover here, we can see that there are tags that describe the various elements. Not only are these tags visually descriptive, but they also have audio attached. So if we take our pointer, we can see there's a laser pointing out of it. Now if I manage to point this laser at the text, we'll see what happens when I click the button.
The Lunar Roving Vehicle, LRV, is a battery-powered four-wheeled rover used on the Moon in the last 3 missions of the American Apollo program, 15, 16, and 17, during 1971 and 1972.
Excellent. Now we can learn more about the things that we've placed on the surface just by pressing on the annotations. Something that's particularly satisfying to play in low gravity is something like Jenga. There we go. Some of the fundamentals of using the VR experience is you have an IK suit. So when you look down, you can see your body. And if we near, we can see our shadow represents what we're doing loosely in the real world into the virtual world. The tracking is still only on the hand, so there's just a bit of math that works out where your body should be. In order to manipulate the objects that you see in the EVA experience, all you need to do is place your hand over the object, pull the trigger, and now we have the object in our hand. This is the case for every single object we have. There we go. Every object has different properties. Its mass, its drag when in an atmosphere, and we can see when we drop it. There we go, we have particle effects. You'll notice that there's no sound. Because sound won't propagate through the vacuum of space as we know it on Earth, there shouldn't be sound on objects on the Moon. Now, these objects are able to perform rudimentary science experiments. So if we take the hammer, and we take the feather, we can perform one of the drop experiments that were performed by one of the Apollo astronauts. We can see we expect these to land on the surface at the same time. There we go. Excellent. We also have the ability for the player to be able to place a flag on the Moon, to be able to represent that they've been here. So let's go ahead and do that. As you can see, the player can pick up the flag, and let's place it there. There we go. Federation University has been here. We also have a radio that's able to relive some of the most famous moments in space history. Let's listen.
We choose to go to the Moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
We're also able to perform some other scientific experiments with the reactions of various gases in the vacuum of space. So here we take our hydrogen, we get a result we expect. Yep, just the balloon bursting, carbon dioxide, and we'll take helium. Oh, now oxygen, we expect a different result to the others. Let's see. Whoa, there we go. Now on Earth, we expect different results to these scientific experiments as we do in the vacuum of space. So if we take the same experiment, now we're going to notice that the sound on Earth, we can already hear the birds. So if we pick up the lighter, there we go, we get some sound. Now let's see what we get when we do hydrogen on Earth. Whoa, there we go. Carbon dioxide. Yep, just the balloon bursting. Oxygen. Ooh, see helium. Cool. Now these gas-filled balloons also react as you'd expect, given that there's no atmosphere. Let's see what happens if we take hydrogen and the carbon dioxide and we drop them. Yes, they fall to the ground. This same experiment performed on Earth will give a different result. Okay, now let's see what kind of results we get here on Earth. Take our hydrogen again. Take our carbon dioxide again, and let's see what happens. Performing these experiments in the different environments will yield different interesting results. There we go. On Earth, objects will make a noise when they fall. Some of the fundamental controls for the EVA experience are the ability to teleport, and all you do is you point your laser in the direction you want to go, press the touchpad, and when you release, you'll be instantaneously teleported to that position. Sometimes it can be particularly challenging to pick things up in the virtual environment, or somebody is not as able to pick up things and bend down in the real world. So we've developed a solution for this. In addition to being able to operate the controls on the handpiece, we're also able to turn an assistive force mode on. So if we turn it on, we are now given this beam that we are able to use to point at objects and pick them up. So if we point to the brick on the table here and we pull the trigger, you can see that we get an animation that indicates that we've picked it up. See, we've got a beam of energy to indicate that we've got a hold of this object and we're moving it around. We can also push and pull objects toward us. So if we push on the Jenga tower here, you can see we can push it. We push some objects off. The opposite hand, you can pull. And this is just done by squeezing the controllers. So if we then push on this, pull on this, see, we bring it to us. Every environment in the EVA experience has unique characteristics, from the atmosphere to the gravity to the sounds and lighting in each location. All are scientifically accurate. Just like on the Moon and Mars, we have various other points of interest. Here we have the James Webb Space Telescope. Not all the controls of the EVA experience need to be done through the physical terminals. You can do a lot of them on the wristwatch device we've developed. As you can see, this gives us a lot of information, and when we mouse over it, you can see it expands. We can see we have a time remaining in this particular session. We have some teleportation, experiments, and planet attributes. If we go to the planet attributes, we can learn things about the various planets that we are on. We're also able to teleport between the planets. So if we go to the teleportation menu, let's head to Mars. Now watch this, you'll see that the world will disappear around me. We always want to make sure that wherever we go, we leave the place as clean as we arrived. The teleportation is nearly instant, and here we are on Mars. On Mars, we have some of the most important rovers in history. Here, we have the Curiosity rover with all its advanced tech. And here we have the Opportunity rover that only just recently went dark after many years long of service. We also have the ability to be able to remove the annotations from the experience if the user wants to. That is accessible through the watch interface. So if we go to the experiments panel, we'll be able to turn the descriptive labels off. And they're clear. We can also turn them back on. We're also able to operate many of the experiments from the watch. So if we have the drop experiment here, we can go to the drop experiment and we get some information from it, and we can then go to controls and we'll set it to 75 meters. Boom, there it goes. There's the command module orbiting overhead. And if we can then spawn an object, and we can see the indicator indicates that the experiment is ready to perform. So let's perform the drop. There we go, experiment done remotely. We can also perform other experiments, not just limited to the drop rig. So if we return to the other menu, we have the laser experiment, and let's toggle it. And as you can see, we can now measure the distance between the Earth and the Moon and get a result based on the speed of light. And here we can see the command module orbiting overhead. Well, that's all we have for today. I'd just like to show a couple of screenshots from the before and after our team received the project.